a priority agenda for IASET, the International Investors Association, since 2020, where we hosted the leaders and pioneers of the impact investing world in our International Investors Summit. That event was actually a tipping point for us, where we started to strengthen our relations with the global impact investing network. And we also recognized the efforts that had been carried out in Turkey by the UNDP, Impact Investing Association, and Investment Office of Turkey, and all the related institutions so far. Then we started to work together on our common agenda, and we were really lucky to have such a strong and devoted institutional partners like UNDP and EYDK, the Impact Investing Advisory Board of Turkey, and all the institutions that are present in the board. Today, we are really pleased to see this initiative of the British Embassy and UNDP that would really contribute to our set strategy that we clarified with a very participatory approach involving all related counterparts from the government, business world, international institutions, and NGOs. It is also encouraging to see how far we have come from discussing the principles and concepts of a bustling impact investment ecosystem to moving with a clear roadmap that any initiative can easily be streamlined in. We are now acting upon our common strategy, and I believe that this project, this initiative, will receive the utmost attention from IASET members and all our stakeholder base. I would like to thank UNDP and British Embassy and Prosperity Fund for this initiative. And with this occasion, I'd like to state that we are looking forward to membership of Turkey in GSG soon. And it's also a pleasure to have Sir Cohen in this event, and we would like to thank him for his endeavors so far to carry the GSG to today's capacity. And I would like to emphasize this one more time, like impact investing is one of the most owned, supported, internalized initiative in Turkey that we believe our members would contribute the most for a healthy development of its ecosystem. And once again, I would like to thank all our partners who are contributing to today's event. And it's good to see that all faces are familiar as we walked a while together to come to this day. I would finally like to extend IASET board's congratulations for this event. And thank you for having us, and we wish you success in your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Mr. Balandova. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Kutlu Karavelioğlu, Vice President of Turkish Exporters Assembly, for his speech. Buyurun Kutlu Bey.
Hanım, teşekkür ederim. UNDP Türkiye Yerleşik Temsilcisi Sayın Linton, Birleşik Krallık Refah Fonu Direktörü Sayın Banks, IASET temsilcimiz Sayın Balandova ve diğer konukları saygıyla selamlıyorum. Bu davet için müteşekkiriz. Burada tim adına düşüncelerimi paylaşacak olmaktan da büyük mutluluk duyuyorum. Birleşik Krallık enstitüleri ile güçlü ilişkiler ve işbirliği bizler için daima çok önemli oldu. Bizlerden kastım sadece tim çatısı altında görev yapan 61 ihracatçı birliğimiz ve yönetimleri değil, bu birliklerin faaliyet alanını oluşturan 27 farklı sektörde üretim ve ticaret yapan 100 bini aşkın işletmemizdir ve hatta bunların ihtisas dernekleridir ki hemen bütün uluslararası sivil yapılanmalarda Birleşik Krallık dernekleriyle birlikte mesai harcarlar. Burayı sadece Birleşik Krallık'la sınırlı tutmayalım. Avrupa Birliği'nde bizimle büyük ölçüde sanayimizin entegre olduğu diğer ülkelerin, Amerika Birleşik Devletleri'nin sivil yapılanmalarını da kastedebiliriz elbette. Bu panelden ülkemizdeki Birleşik Krallık şirketleriyle iki ülke arasında ticari bağı olan şirketler nezdinde sürdürülebilir kalkınma amaçları yatırımları konusunda farkındalık yaratmasını umuyoruz. Dilerim öyle olsun. Değerli konuklar, Birleşik Krallık Türkiye'nin önemli bir ticari partneri olarak öne çıkıyor. 19 milyar doları aşan bir ticaret hacmimiz var. Bunun 14 milyar doları ihracattır. İhracatımızın %6'sı yaklaşık Birleşik Krallık'a yapılıyor. Ve üçüncü büyük ortağımız bu konuda. Pandemi süreci, Brexit, üretimin coğrafya değişimi ve yeniden paylaşılması, tedarik zincirlerinde çeşitlenme ve kısalma, bölgeselleşme ve sahil gelişme çok daha büyük bir potansiyelin işaretlerini verdiği için karşılıklı yatırımlarda bir atılım gözlemliyoruz. Birleşik Krallık'ta 300 milyon dolara yakın, Türkiye'de de 1.4 milyar dolara yakın doğrudan yatırım var karşılıklı olarak. Başta bu yatırımların ihtiyaçları olmak üzere olup biten bütün gelişmelere en iyi şekilde adapte olmak gereği var. Birleşik Krallık'ın yeni uygunluk değerlendirme işareti gibi iklim değişikliği ve sürdürülebilirlik faslında yürürlüğe girecek birçok mevzuata hazırlık gibi Birleşik Krallık yetkilileri bizim çalışmalarımızda görev üstlenerek, yani yer alarak başka deyişle meseleleri doğru anlatmamıza ve sektörel stratejiler geliştirmemize katkı sunuyorlar. Müteşekkiriz. Değerli konuklar, etki yatırımı kavramsal olarak malum sosyal ve çevresel kazanımları göz önüne alan, hatta önceleyen bir yatırım anlayışının ifadesidir. Biliyoruz ki teşviklerle, kurallarla, engel veya cezalarla bir anlayışın yerleşmesi, yani kalıcı olması pek mümkün olmaz. Sanayi bir dönüşüm geçirecekse bunun felsefesinin hem arz yönünde hem de talep yönünde iyi anlaşılması, özümsenmesi gerekiyor. Bizim Birleşmiş Milletler Kalkınma Programı'nın ortaya koyduğu sürdürülebilir kalkınma amaçlarını fevkalade önemsiyor olmamız yetmez, yetmeyecektir. Her kesimin bu duyarlılığa ulaşmasını sağlamanın yollarını birlikte bulmalı ve geliştirmeliyiz. Kim neler yapıyor bu konuda anlatmaya zamanım olmadığını biliyorum. Zamanın sınırlı olmasının ötesinde çok fazla çabamız olduğu için buna hiçbir zaman el vermeyecektir. Birçok komite, birçok çalıştay, eylem planı ve lansmanı, bölgesel ve ulusal birçok eğitim programı, fiziki ve dijital birçok mentörlük programı sürdürüyoruz. Öte yandan Türkiye'nin en köklü ve en yaygın ve yetkin inovasyon ve girişimcilik ekosistemimizin hamiliğini ve liderliğini yürütürken burada uygulamakta olduğumuz hemen bütün programların hedefine de sürdürülebilirliği koymuş bulunuyoruz. Bu yıl sürdürülebilirlik alanında faaliyet gösteren girişimleri uçtan uca destekleyeceğimiz 2 yeni hızlandırma programı açıyoruz. UNDP ve Birleşik Krallık Büyükelçiliğini paydaşımız olarak yanımızda görmekten duyacağımız memnuniyeti sözlerimin sonunda ifade etmek isterim. Bu paneli izleyen üyelerimizi de fırsattan istifade Salı günü düzenleyeceğimiz teknik eğitime davet etmek isterim. Beni dinlediğiniz için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Bu anlamlı programın hayata geçirilmesine emek verenleri, UNDP Türkiye'yi, Birleşik Krallık Ankara Büyükelçiliğini temsilcilerin nezdinde kutluyorum. Amaçlanan faydaya ulaşılmasını diliyorum. Saygılar sunuyorum.
Ve konuşmalarınız için çok teşekkür ederiz. I will now yield the floor to Mr. Jamie Banks, Head of Prosperity Programming of UK, for his speech. Mr. Banks, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, the Ambassador and his team in Ankara, and the Consul General here in Istanbul, I'd like to say how very pleased we are to be supporting this important awareness-raising event. We understand and very much appreciate that increasing impact investment in Turkey is a priority for the Turkish government. You may be aware that last week we hosted a major event in London for Turkey on green investment and how to raise finance to invest in renewable projects here in Turkey. And at that meeting in advance, we were specifically asked for the subject of impact investment to be reflected upon in the discussions at the meeting. And I think that's a clear indication of the importance that Turkey attaches to the subject matter. From the UK government's perspective, we very much hope that today's session will play a role in developing partnerships between UK and Turkey in this innovative financing model, with the ultimate aim of strengthening investment collaboration between our two countries. I'd particularly like to extend our thanks to UNDP for facilitating this event, to Sir Ronald Murad Cohen for delivering a keynote message, and to our very distinguished panel members for bringing their expertise and experiences to the panel discussion. I hope it's a fruitful event for you all. And again, I send you my best wishes for the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Banks. I'm kindly inviting Ms. Louisa Winton, Resident Representative of UNDP Turkey Country Office, for her opening remarks. The floor is yours, Ms. Winton.
Thank you so much, and greetings, everyone. Greetings to the good friends on the panel and on the screen, and the new friends we're meeting today, and then also to our many participants online for joining us today on this session on impact investing and the potential of lessons learned and experience sharing between the UK and Turkey on this subject. It's a real pleasure to be here, and as has been mentioned many times, we have been working step by step to achieve this now in Turkey, and we're very pleased to have reached yet another milestone today. So just to start with a few remarks, first to thank everyone for the time zone spanning that we're doing today. I think we have online the UK, Australia, and Turkey in the middle somehow, so it's very many time zones, and I gather our timing is the perfect sort of medium to bring so many people together. And I think we can all reflect, we are now very deeply into the pandemic, that what we might have achieved, over years at cocktail parties, we're now achieving in not so personalized, but also very inclusive session online. So the task that we see at UNDP is obviously to achieve these 17 sustainable development goals that the world has been working on since 2016 and is now running out of time to achieve by 2030, and which are facing very, very real challenges in the form of climate change, in the form of economic crisis, in the form of old and new conflicts around the world. So we see, the need to redouble our resources to try to achieve those 17 sustainable development goals. And when we've looked at it, and from the start, there's been a sense that the development goals are the ambition, the scale of ambition that the world needs, but then also bringing with them considerable costs. And whenever we tried to look at the costs, we see the numbers going to $6 to $7 trillion per year. So obviously, when we compare that number to what's available in, say, development funding, which is in the hundreds of millions of dollars per year, or even in all government spending, we don't quite find a way to close the gap. But the way we are trying to solve this puzzle is by bringing in the private sector and private sector investors. And when we start to look at the scale of resources available to pension funds, to multinational companies, to the private sector worldwide, we see, this is a number that can get us to the goals that we have set and that every member state of the United Nations has agreed to. So we see impact investing as that very important bridge of resources. And we do see the task at trying to point the way to credible investments, to investments with impact, to investments with a return, but also investments with a very clear impact of bringing us closer to those sustainable development goals. And it has been said, UNDP has been pleased to work with the many partners represented here today in a very constructive way over the past several years in mapping the prospects, in looking at what would constitute a positive sector for impact investing in Turkey, where the prospects are realistic, in training people at how to explore impact investments, and in awareness raising that's needed to get things moving. And we've managed to set up an online platform where we hope the community is coming together. So we're in mid-flow, we're working together, and we would like to thank our partners here who are represented today and have spoken and will speak, that we are moving this forward. But obviously, it's still a fairly new concept for the Turkish, let me just push this button, the Turkish economy. And so that we hope to learn some very important lessons from our British colleagues today, and in moving forward in ensuring that we follow the same standards, that we achieve the same impact, that we know what we're talking about, that what we're doing is not just a slogan, but is a very real economic endeavor. And I was so pleased to see that we have some of the titans of British venture capital, British investment, who have shown their prowess already in successful investing and have turned over time towards social investment or the very impact investment that we're talking about. So we hope that that the participants here today will find their stories as inspiring as we do. And we consider this just the first in what we hope will be a series of very good conversations as we look not just to expand the partnerships between the British economy and the Turkish economy, but also that we learn from what other successful investors have been doing elsewhere to translate their very powerful funds into real world progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So with that, I'm all ears to hear the panel discussion today, and really to thank everyone for joining, and to look forward to working together as we continue to expand the scope for impact investing in Turkey. So thanks very much for joining, and looking forward to working together.
Thank you, Ms. Minton. As a final remarks, we are pleased to have Sir Ronald Cohen, chairperson of Global Steering Group for Impact Investment, and most importantly, who is driving forward the global impact revolution, to deliver the keynote message through the video. Now we are going to share his video.
It's with great pleasure that I address you ahead of your important panel today to talk about impact investment in Turkey. Impact investment has now become a mainstream subject everywhere because government leaders and others realize that without bringing private capital to achieve the social priorities and the environmental objectives of governments, it's very difficult to fund the efforts to meet our challenges. And so we see an idea which started off on the periphery of the financial system, and now take hold of it with $40 trillion of ESG funding flowing every year to achieve impact as well as profit, and no less than $2 trillion of impact investment proper, where the intention is matched by the measurement of the impact. Now, every country has its own particular social challenges, and our planet faces a global challenge. The great thing about impact investment, as the UK government has shown, is that when government throws its weight behind the impact movement, we can begin to innovate in ways to attract this private capital. It can come in the form of social impact bonds or development impact bonds. It can come through the creation of outcomes funds to pay for the results achieved by these bonds. It can come through impact private equity and impact venture capital, and it's now coming $1 trillion worth of it through sustainability-linked bonds. All of these tools are available to tackle the big social challenges that face us. And I hope your panel today will show the way forward to using them at scale. And I am delighted that the GSG is taking new steps in Turkey, and that the British government and the Turkish government are joining forces on this important topic. So I wish you well, and I look forward to meeting you all in person before too long.
Dear participants, this is the end of the first part of the event. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Şafak Müderresi, who is the President of Impact Investing Advisory Board and the moderator of the panel today. Şafak Hanım, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pınar Hanım. Good day to everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you all. Before we start to run our panel, I would like to thank the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the UK for funding, and the UNDP Turkey office for putting this event together. I would like to extend our gratitude to our distinguished speakers for their kind attendance and welcome remarks. Serkan Valandova from the International Investors Association, Kutlu Karavelioğlu from the Turkish Exporters Assembly, Jamie Banks from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the UK, and Louisa Vinton from the UNDP Turkey office. We thank you all for all your invaluable remarks. We are also honored to have Sir Ronald Cohen today as our keynote speaker, and would like to thank him for his encouraging and positive remarks, messages. Turkey's journey with the concept of impact investing has actually started 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, in April 2019. And within this period, the Impact Investing Advisory Board, EYDK, has been formed in April 2021 with the members from leading public, private, and third sector institutions. EYDK's mission is to advocate for putting impact at the heart of investments in Turkey. As the chair of EYDK, I must say that I'm delighted today to have the dream team at our panel, and I would like to welcome them all. Hearing about their perspectives about impact and impact investing will surely be enlightening for us all. Let me first introduce our panelists briefly. Firstly, Fabienne Michaud is the director of SDG Impact. SDG Impact is a UNDP initiative tasked with developing resources to accelerate investments towards sustainable development goals. Cliff Pryor is the CEO of the Global Steering Group for Impact Investing, GSG. GSG is a global organization founded on the belief that investment done well can benefit all people and the planet. The GSG has a global influence on a unique and growing group of national advisory boards, representing 34 countries up until now. And then we have Adam Richards. Adam is the Director of Impact at Social Value International, SVI. SVI is the global network for social value and impact management. And finally, Cüneyt Selçuk is the Financial Investments Manager at the Investment Office of the Presidency. The Investment Office is the official organization for promoting Turkey's investment opportunities to the global business community. Now, as the concept of impact investing is very much so aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, I would like to start with Fabienne. Fabienne is attending from Australia, and time-wise, she's ahead of us. It is wonderful to have you here today, Fabienne, and we appreciate that you could make it. Welcome. Can you please tell us what exactly does UNDP's SDG Impact Initiative focus on? And what does a SDG Investor Map tell us? What do the SDG Impact Standards offer us?
Thank you for that, and it's lovely to be with you. I've only recently got back from a trip where my first place out of Australia for the first time in more than 2 years was Istanbul. So it's nice to be back with you all virtually again. So so thanks for having me. So at SDG Impact, we're really trying to help organisations embed sustainability and managing for impact at the heart of their business and investment purpose and decision making, and direct capital to where it can make the most difference for people and planet. So that has two elements for us. The first is we are really keen to try and promote a future where all private sector capital is deployed responsibly and sustainably in pursuit of net positive impact for people and planet. Because otherwise, if we don't actually set a floor for sustainability across all capital, we're really seeding future problems that are going to need solutions. So we're going to be like that mouse on the proverbial wheel, just running around and never actually catching up. Then the second part of that is that a part of that, or a portion of that capital, we really want to see targeted towards specific solutions where the gaps are biggest, and fill that annual financing and funding gap that we were talking about earlier, which post-COVID has risen to about US $3.7 trillion a year, up from $2.5 trillion before COVID. So on both fronts, I think impact investors play a really important role. With the, while the ambition with the first part of that brief is really all capital, as we've seen in other in other applications, the impact investing community is often the first mover, and doing a lot of things and building a lot of infrastructure and capability and awareness that then the mainstream market can pick up over time. And obviously, you know, working more specifically around, you know, some of those more targeted areas and working in ways that bring different organisations together to create those solutions where finance is needed most. The SDG investor maps, we've now developed 19 investor maps and identified over 300 investment opportunity areas. The maps are targeted at primarily developing market contexts, and our aim is to really shine a light on the opportunities where SDG need and policy priority intersect and create opportunities for the private sector to invest. Importantly, last year we started enhancing the maps to actually also put a spotlight on white spaces, what we're calling white spaces, the areas where we think that there is a strong opportunity for development impact, but perhaps not yet the policy priority and incentives to crowd in private sector capital. And we'll take those areas into our policy dialogue discussions through our country office networks. The SDG Impact Standards are voluntary management standards where we're really aiming to help organisations embed sustainability and managing for impact in their management systems and decision-making processes. We have 4 sets of standards that are now live. We've developed self-assessment tools for organisations to engage with the standards and start using them. We're building the training. We'll be piloting the assurance framework fairly soon. So they're I think the important thing I would say is they're management standards, not reporting standards. And I often think that I need to say that about 30 times before it sinks in. So someone actually did a search the other day on ISO and management standards versus reporting standards and things like the ISSB the other day, and I think it was for the last few months 14 media hits for management standards to do with sustainability and 1,400 on reporting. So there is a natural bias in people's thinking that when you're talking about sustainability standards, you're talking about reporting, whereas we're really focused on helping organisations make better decisions and drive for more impact. On the assurance side, we think assurance is really important because it firstly will underpin the value proposition of the standards themselves, but I think it's also needed to improve market trust, credibility and confidence and improve impact integrity. I think assurance can also play a really strong role in terms of reducing the risk of management bias and blind spots and really help to create the impetus for positive change. The standards have been developed really as a North Star and best practice. We know that organisations won't be there yet, but the assurance is being set at a lower level, but with the expectation of building in continuous improvement over time, because our theory of change isn't that we should just actually identify organisations that are doing well now. We really need to drag the whole system forward to improve our performance against the Sustainable Development Goals, because we're definitely not on track to reach them now. So, you know, the underpinning of the way we've designed it is really to help promote change over time. Thanks.
Thank you, Fabienne, for your first remarks. The SDG Impact Standards and investor maps are really great resources, particularly for mobilizing the private sector companies, the private sector that are interested to include impact within their strategies. And the SDG Investor Platform for Turkey has also been replicated and can be found at EYDK's website. So anyone interested to see the investment opportunity areas aligned to the SDGs in Turkey can have a look and use these resources, just to give it a reminder here. And now I'm turning to Cliff Pryor. Cliff, welcome. You're joining us from London today, and we are so glad to have you here. Can you please tell us more regarding GSG's vision? Who is your target audience? What do you want to achieve within the framework of the global goals? and what is your perspective in advocating for impact investing?
Well, teşekkür ederim, if I get that right. Thank you, Shafak. Really great to be with you. I wish I was with you in person in your wonderful country. And really delighted to be with you today. So you mentioned already, Shafak, investment done well can benefit all people and our shared planet, and that's our mantra. Our mission is to influence the achievement of positive social and environmental outcomes through an effective and diverse global movement, a movement that works for every country. And this movement is now, it's over 70 countries strong, of which 34 have already reached the status of a National Advisory Board for Impact. And we're delighted to see the strong progress towards a Turkey National Advisory Board very soon. So inequality continues to rise. Climate change threatens the future of our planet. It's just abundantly clear that our economic and financial systems are not working to solve the challenges that we face. The SDG challenges, the net zero challenges, and governments and philanthropy, of course, are important, absolutely important, but they can't turn it around on their own. And private capital has a really key role to play, and especially through impact investment. So impact investment seeks to correct social inequalities and protect the environment, whilst also providing profits for investors. And it does that by optimizing across risk, return, and impact, all considered together. And where did this come from? Well, impact investing started around 15 years ago. Small funds initially investing into social enterprises, again at small scale. And that's continued, and it's still important, and it's particularly important for small and medium-sized impact enterprises. But around 5 or so years ago, we started to see mainstream asset managers investing into much larger scale challenges, taking impact investing to its first trillion and beyond. And most recently, we've seen something new. We've seen a start to use the tools of impact measurement and management across a much wider range of investments as we've moved towards harmonized standards for impact, reporting requirements on impact, and in the near future, I think, mandatory transparency on the impact of every company's both positive and negative impacts. So new tools have been developed along the way. We started off with things like impact bonds that Sir Ronald talked about in his piece, results-based finance, where returns are tied to investment, and the green and social and sustainability bonds that can do larger scale and particularly infrastructure investments, blended finance, catalytic finance, public-private connections, investment tools for every challenge. And at the GSG, we offer a 5-pillar framework for countries that are developing a national advisory board for impact investing: the supply of capital, developing impact funds, the intermediation, demand for capital, getting the enterprises impact ready, and government and regulatory work, having the kinds of permissions that allow companies to focus on impact as well as on risk and return, and having the laws that allow public-private action, having the government procurement arrangements that measure their impact. And then the 5th area of an advisory sector, the lawyers knowing how to work on impact transactions, the accountants, the impact measurement agencies, and so on. And all of these are essential. Every country has its own starting point for impact, its own goals, its own opportunities and challenges. Priorities in a particular country might be about decent jobs or education, healthcare, environment, affordable housing, improving agriculture, clean water, refugee support. Whichever of the SDGs are the priority in your country. But countries also learn and share from each other. And we see really intense interest across countries to share knowledge on what works across the countries with national advisory boards, networks on different topics, wholesale impact funds, for example, tech for good, results-based finance. This kind of shared learning speeds up development for everyone. And with stakeholders like the UNDP and specialists for social value and impact like SVI, you know, this is bringing the different elements together for success. The GSG tries to bring together all of the main market builders for impact on a regular basis, so that, you know, we can achieve more together than we can separately. And most of all, a future in the next few years that impact becomes the norm, that a new impact financial system works for all countries. And that's what I'm aiming for. That's what the GSG is aiming for. And I hope it is for you as well. Thank you, Safa.
Thank you, Cliff. Yes, it is for us as well. We can tell. And at this point, I want to mention that as the Impact Investing Board of Turkey, we have developed a relationship with GSG and aligned ourselves with its principles from day one. And we are looking forward to becoming a member of the GSG community to represent Turkey. And we have learned a lot from the NAB, the National Advisory Boards community as well, that I would like to mention that as well. Thank you again. I'm turning to Adam Richards. Adam is also in a different time zone. He's attending from Thailand. So Adam, thanks a lot for joining us today, making yourself available. My first question is about SVI's activities. Can you tell more regarding SVI's activities and what social value exactly means? Why is it important to measure social value, and where does assurance stand within this universe?
Certainly, yes. Thank you very much. It's great to be here, and it's great to follow such esteemed friends and colleagues as well. And I think the first thing to say is perhaps that we're hearing a lot about standards and networks, and just to say that all of us here today really do work very closely together. Social Value International is a network. We are a global network for social value and impact management. And I'm hearing words from Fabienne and Cliff that I'm just nodding vigorously away with. Our ambition, our mission, is to change the way the world accounts for value. We essentially want to see the same sort of future, I think, that everybody on this call does. A future where we can increase levels of equality, where we can improve people's well-being, and we can reduce environmental harm and destruction through the decisions that organizations take on a daily basis. So behind this fantastic ambition and this shared desire and mission that we all have are 8 principles of social value. And fundamentally, those principles are about being responsive. It's about understanding the effects of any activity, any investment on people, the effects on your stakeholders, particularly those affected, understanding their experiences and being able to use those insights to improve and even optimize the value that you create through those activities and through those investments. And that's fundamentally what social value is. It's about understanding stakeholder experiences, outcomes, and being able to understand the value of them, how important those different changes are for those stakeholders. And really importantly, from their perspective, value lies in the eye of the stakeholder. So when we can truly understand the different experiences that stakeholders have, those that we intend to create, those that are unintended, those that are positive, as well as those that are negative, when we understand the relative importance of those different changes, we can really use our resources to respond to them, to optimize the value that we can create through our activities, maximizing the positives as well as reducing, if not eliminating, the negatives. So it really is a fantastic time to be part of this movement. Social Value International is now 15 years old. And I feel like this is a movement whose time has come, or is certainly coming. We are collectively going mainstream. The ideas that we talk about and the norms of what impact mean have really galvanized and really led a consensus as to what we need to focus on, what impacts mean, and that centrality of the stakeholder voice. So this is an exciting time, and we work with other organizations to set standards about what it means to measure and manage impacts, whether you're using the social return on investment methodology or the social value principles without a particular aspect of monetization. And we work with other organizations, and we're incredibly proud to be able to say we work with SDG Impact and others to set standards. We work in collaboration with partners, but also with our national networks. We have networks now in around 25 countries. One, of course, is Social Value Turkey, and it's absolutely fantastic to be able to say hi in person, Shafak. And we have members in over 45 countries around the world. And I'm incredibly proud to work for this organization. I've been a member pretty much from the beginning, and I still have the same passion, and I share the passion with my members, our members, to change the way the world accounts for value. Because we're absolutely certain, I've seen it happen enough, that when we respect and listen to the stakeholders' voice, we can use that information. It is absolute gold dust in helping us improve and optimize the value that we create. And how does assurance fit in with this? Well, Fabienne mentioned that key word of risk. Whenever we make an account for impact, whenever we measure and look to manage those impacts going forwards, we need to manage risk. We need to manage risk to a level that both our organization and our stakeholders are happy with, so that the decisions we take, we're confident that they are the best decisions. We're reducing the risk of making suboptimal choices. So I want us to always have this analogy in our minds. And again, we've heard about the 14,000 searches for reporting. I wish it was 14,000 for accounting, because we are accounting for value. And just as financial accounting has that scrutiny, has that assurance and audit process to give investors confidence in their choices, to manage risk to an acceptable level so that the decisions can be taken, we need the same approach when it comes to social value or impact management. I want to ensure that when you're making your responsible investments, when you're investing for impact, that the evidence you have at your fingertips is good enough to support your decisions, and that the risk of making suboptimal choice is mitigated. So I finish by saying it is absolutely a movement whose time has come. I think this is the next few years working in partnership with SDG Impact are set to be, I'm absolutely convinced, game-changing. Thank you ever so much.
Wonderful insights, Adam. Thank you so much. There has been a number of practitioners in Turkey, as you have mentioned, that are members to SVI so far. And now an ecosystem is developing to establish SV Turkey, Social Value Turkey, hopefully this year, which is good news. So this might be a call, an open call to all stakeholders or potential stakeholders who are interested to be a part of this ecosystem. From the early days on, the initiative to develop the impact investing ecosystem in Turkey, the investment office of the presidency has always been so supportive. So I'm turning to Cüneyt Bey now, Cüneyt Selçuk now. Cüneyt Bey, so glad to have you joining us, our panel today. My first question is, what was the reason for the investment office to take a stance to support the development of the impact investing ecosystem in Turkey? And what rationale did you see with the notion of impact investing that aligned with your own target audience?
Thank you, Shafak Hanım. And I would like to also thank UNDP Turkey Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office of the United Kingdom and British Embassy in Ankara for organizing such an event. As the Investment Office of Turkey, it's a great pleasure for us to be here. We are the official investment promotion agency of the country, and naturally, what we are doing is we are trying to attract foreign direct investments. Foreign direct investments, FDI, is a very crucial vehicle for emerging markets. So as an emerging market, it is very crucial for Turkey too. It is very crucial because it provides the much needed capital to our country, but it's not only capital, FDI also know-how, also employment, also an instrument which carry our country's value in global value chain upwards. So related to your question, it's also a vehicle which helps us to catch our SDG goals. We handle foreign direct investments, FDI investments, in two categories. Of course, you can categorize FDI in several different ways, depending on your perspective, like greenfields, expansion, M&A, or industrial or services. But from the motivation of the investor, there are two categories, strategic and financial. On the strategic side, as you know, strategic investors, mainly multinational, long-term investors, industrial producers, they are increasingly started to develop policies to contribute to the UN SDGs. To be able to do that, they are increasingly seeking countries, looking for countries where the impact investment ecosystem is established. So as a country, to be able to attract foreign direct investments from such national multinational companies, we need to establish and invest the impact investment ecosystem. And this impact investment ecosystem should include all the relevant stakeholders. First of all, regulatory framework, also the other stakeholders to measure, to supervise. Therefore, this is why we support impact investing on the strategic side. On the financial side, as you know, they are rather short-term investors. They whether it be a pension fund or a private equity or a venture capital, they are also increasingly raising impact investment funds. And they are looking for countries where there is a ready, mature and working impact investment ecosystem. So to be able to get their funds, to be able to get investments from impact investment funds, again, we need to create an impact investment ecosystem. So this is why we support impact investing also in the financial side. At this point, maybe I should say a few things about how we support. I said we are supporting them, how we support. A quick timeline, what we have done so far, but not only us, by us, invest in Turkey, all of us, all together. For our agency, for us, it started 2.5 years ago. In September 2019, UNDP, IIC, PSD, Istanbul International Center for Private Sector in Development, visited us at our office. Gülçin Salıngan and her team, Funda Süzer and Melis Aslan, visited us at our office and mentioned that they were going to conduct a study about Turkey's impact investment ecosystem. They visited us because they thought that we might be one of the most relevant institutions in Turkey about impact investing. They were true. We believe we are one of the most relevant governmental institutions in Turkey for impact investing. We supported them, and the report was done by themselves. Mainly the impact investing ecosystem in Turkey was prepared by them and made public at the end of 2019. This study was designed as a stakeholder mapping and preliminary analysis of the ecosystem in Turkey and showcased Turkey's potential to attract global investors, domestic investors, and impact creating enterprises. Participants can download it from our webpage, invest.gov.tr. We believe it's a great report and it was a great beginning. Later in November 2020, a task force, as you know, was formed to launch a national advisory board for impact investing in Turkey. Actually, such a need to establish a national advisory board was mentioned in the report. The task force comprised the investment office, us, Turkish Development and Investment Bank, UNDP IIC PSD, UNDP Turkey, and ETKİAP. You, Şafak Hanım, you as ETKİAP, Impact Investing Platform at that time, you were very helpful and you have always been very helpful in this journey, and thank you for that. On March 2021, another study conducted again by the UNDP IIC PSD, SDG Investor Map, you already mentioned, was completed and made public. In this study, specific investment opportunity areas in Turkey were identified, like it was done in the other countries, and this report can also be downloaded from our webpage. And 1 month later, in April 2021, Impact Investment Advisory Board in Turkey, what we call it as EYDK, Turkey's National Advisory Board, was formally established with delegates from 27 institutions at that time and organizations representing most of the relevant stakeholders in Turkey. Şafak Hanım, you were elected as the first chairperson of EYDK, and so the process to become a member of Global Steering Group for Impact Investing, GSG, was started, and we hopefully we will be member of GSG. So in this process, in this journey as the investment office, we have been very happy for being part of this process, and we will do our best where we can help.
Thank you very much, Cüneyt Bey. Apart from the numerous meetings we have had over the last 2 years to incorporate the Task Force for Impact Investing and EYDK, it's really great to share the floor with you today to speak of the emergence of the impact investing ecosystem in Turkey. And I also want to go back to Jamie Banks's words. He mentioned, Jamie Banks has mentioned in his remarks that we were positioned at the Green Finance Conference last week at a panel in London. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Investment Office to make it happen, because the Investment Office actually positioned us, EYDK, to be there, to be present at the panel, to reflect our thoughts about green finance and impact investing. So thank you again. And now I'm going to dive into the second tour of our questions, and going back to Fabienne. So Fabienne, since you are the co-chair of the Australian Advisory Board on Impact Investing, and you also co-chaired one of the working groups of the Australian Sustainable Finance Initiative, can you please tell us what is the driving interest in sustainability and in impact investing in Australia, and how was the Australian Sustainable Finance Roadmap prepared, and how was it received by policymakers? After the release of the report, how is the work carrying forward?
Thanks, Şafak. It's very interesting listening to the comments. I think both Turkey and the UK in terms of the role of government supporting the development of the impact investing sector. In Australia, impact investing has really been much more market-led than government led. It's not to say that government isn't involved. There's a lot of things going on at different levels of government in pockets, but it is lacking that more holistic coordination in terms of supporting the creation of the enabling environment. So a lot of the initiatives have been market led, and starting with the development of the Australian Advisory Board, or the NAB in Australia, which is called Impact Investing Australia here back in 2014, where that was really, people from across across community impact investors, foundations, high net worth individuals, and then more recently interest from the institutional investment community, in particular asset owners and industry superannuation funds, which interesting beasts and very big in Australia, and come with them, you know, an element of social drive, because, you know, their members are their workers. So that, you know, that intersection between you know, economic resilience and sustainability, and creating opportunities for members beyond the investment returns, I think resonates particularly with a few of the larger superannuation funds here. So interestingly, in 2019, the federal government established the Social Impact Investing Taskforce, which and commissioned a report which was delivered to government about a year ago. And we haven't heard anything from government on that yet, but they did a lot of work and surveyed and interviewed over 140 organisations. And one of the things the Australian Advisory Board has completed recently is a refresh of our board, and actually merging and bringing together the existing board with the task force members of the Social Impact Investing Task Force. So really looking at that, a lot of the recommendations were very aligned, and felt that bringing it together gave a more coordinated voice and singular voice around driving the development of the market, but also a platform to pursue the recommendations of the Social Impact Investment Task Force. The Sustainable Finance Initiative was set up in 2019. It started, the seeds were sown a couple of years earlier, but that was very much a broader based initiative, so the mainstream market, and really around looking at ways to make the whole Australian financial system more sustainable. Again, it was industry led. The really interesting thing about ASFI was that they established a board. The Responsible Investment Association of Australasia managed the secretariat, and then they created 4 working groups and went through a public expressions of interest process and attracted 80 or representatives from more than 80 companies onto those working groups. So in terms of actually building, you know, an army of a coalition of the willing, and you know, building that change and way forward, I thought that was a really interesting part of that ASFI structure. Another interesting part was, while it was predominantly industry led, on all of the working groups were representatives from civil society, scientific organisations, our wonderful CSIRO, and people from association, you know, accounting associations, as well as the regulators, the financial regulators. So I think that it was a really interesting way to bring those constituencies together, particularly without government driving some of these initiatives at a higher level. So the Sustainable Finance Roadmap made 37 recommendations and was released in late 2020. And subsequent to the report going out, the Australian Sustainable Finance Initiative Institute has been created, and really to monitor action against the recommendations and to highlight case studies. So they've actually created a momentum tracker, which is highlighting you know, action plans and case studies to help keep, I guess, the spotlight on the recommendations that came out of the process, as well as, you know, share learnings and provide the market as a whole with the opportunity to look forward. While government was probably less visible in terms of the response to the ASFI report, I think the engagement of the financial regulators in the process was very telling and important, particularly around climate action. The financial regulators in Australia have made it clear that they're expecting you know, significant change from the financial services sector in terms of contributions towards net zero.
Obviously, there's a lot to learn from the Australian Advisory Board, and I'm really looking forward to meet the Australian team in May at the GSG meetings this year. A lot to learn indeed. Thank you, Fabian. And now I'm turning to Cliff for the second question. My second question, Cliff, is regarding the G7 Impact Task Force. Can you please tell us about the G7 Impact Task Force launched in December 2021? I was one of the lucky ones to be present at that event, and I was amazed. So how was the task force formed, and what does it aim for? What will be the way forward?
Thank you, Shafak. So G7 Impact Task Force, I have to say, beyond all expectations we had when we started on this. So where did it come from? Well, you know, we've talked about this. Global policy for impact is moving very rapidly, and it has to because, you know, although many countries have committed, for example, to reducing emissions 30%, 40%, 50% by 2030, you know, different countries, different amounts, but emissions are still rising. And we're still way off the SDGs, as Fabienne has said earlier. And yet there are huge downsides if these commitments are not met. Political downsides, social unrest, environmental disasters, economic collapse. These are not commitments that are ones of choice. They are ones of absolute necessity. So an absolute necessity, therefore, is mobilization of private capital, because there's never going to be enough public money to deal with this. So the last year, we had some of the national advisory boards, particularly from France, saying, hang on a minute, this is the G7 presidency, the last one since 2012. And 2012 was the first social impact task force during the UK presidency. And there we were with another UK presidency. And we thought, okay, let's give it a go. Let's see if we can put together through the GSG, an impact task force supported by the UK G7 presidency. But as has been mentioned in the Australian case, from an industry side approach. So it came from the sector with support from government, but it was a sector led. We invited 121 very high level people from around the world, and 120 people said yes. One person was very ill. We were not expecting that. We were expecting maybe we get half of the people. It was led by the Global Steering Group with the support of the Impact Investing Institute, which is also the UK's National Advisory Board. And as I said, with support from our Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. Nick Hurd, who was the minister who launched the first Impact Task Force back in 2012, took the chair of this new task force. And he had two working group chairs, one from Doug Peterson, CEO of S&P Global, and the other from Dame Elizabeth Corley, who's now chair of Schroders. The problem that we faced was how to narrow the gap between the rhetoric and the delivery of commitments for the SDGs and net zero, and putting together two questions: how we can accelerate the volume and effectiveness of private capital that seeks to have a positive social or environmental impact, and how we can make sure that this mobilization has real impact, doesn't leave anybody, any people or places behind. We had just 4 and a bit months to work on this and created some very powerful recommendations. And these were in two parts, two work streams. The first work stream was looking at how we measure and account for impact, supporting the new effort from the IFRS, the Global Accounting Body, which was creating an international sustainability standards board, a global reporting baseline on impact related to enterprise value, what hits the company's profit and loss, but also building very urgently on that baseline to include impact on wider stakeholders, the externalities, and committing to mandatory accounting for impact as a destination, supporting the new methodology of impact valuation. Well, what do we mean by that? It builds on the standards, the kind of standards that Social Value International has brought together, and through the impact management program, as it was now, platform, and the assurance systems that FVI is also very strong on. And then it brings together organizations that have been working on impact monetization, how you can put in $1 or whatever amount for the positive or negative of your impact. The Impact Weighted Accounts Initiative and the Value Balancing Alliance and some others in the field coming together now with a view that maybe 3 years, it might be 4 years. Ronnie would definitely say it's 2 years to get to a point of accounting for impact valuation. It's not an easy task. There's a lot of complexity to it, but just imagine the change that, you know, if you can add not just profit and loss for each company, but profit and loss for each company's external impacts in money terms. You know, what does that do? It will drive investment and companies towards the SDGs, towards the net zero. Instead of having to, you know, push a boulder up a hill for impact investing, it will be rolling ahead. And there are already now something between 25 and 30 major global companies that have put themselves forward as test beds as this is developed. And that's one piece. The second piece, the vehicles and policies that are needed to mobilize capital at scale, particularly focused on small and medium-sized enterprises and on emerging economies. Recognizing the integration of social and environmental objectives. I'll come back to why that's important. Adopting a just transition approach with 3 elements: environmental, social, and also community voice, which is a fairly new concept, but is clearly very important in the major changes that we have coming up. Also empowering some of the development finance institutions and their development bank backers to improve their mobilization of capital, and using expanding the use of guarantees and other instruments to create more opportunities. Just to give a bit of an example of what we mean by this, there are a number of countries. Let's take one, South Africa, where coal is a major industry. We know that coal has to stop. We know that clean energy is required. You can quite imagine the kinds of investments that are needed from a transition from coal to clean energy. But what about the people? What about the communities? Take that South African example. In just one province, 130,000 miners. So what's their jobs? You have to think about the social change, the social transition, as well as the environmental transition. You have to think about the communities and their voices for the future. If you don't do that, you'll try to achieve your net zero, but there will be rebellion from the public. We have to bring the two together. So, as I say, 120 high-level leaders on the task force. It was, you know, that gives it great credibility. In the first week after the release, 3 million social media views, 72,000 video downloads on it. There's follow-up action across continents with events, with translations, with commitments being made, an impact valuation entity coming together, a pilot just transition project for energy transition. Now we're engaging with the German G7 and the Indonesia G20. You know, this is it's a huge effort. A lot of people have put an enormous amount of energy and time pro bono into making this happen in the first place, and then making those recommendations real now. And impact is our shared future, and Turkey is a major part of this future, and it's absolutely the right time for Turkey to be stepping forward for impact, addressing the SDGs, addressing net zero for all our shared future. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. It's tremendous work what the Impact Task Force has achieved in just like a little bit more than 4 months. It's incredible, having gathered 120 members representing 40 countries and other experts from all across the world, all sectors, putting all their efforts in this input, and it paves the way to further opportunities coming up with the G7 German presidency and the G20 meetings in Indonesia, as you mentioned. It is tremendous. I'm turning to Adam now. Adam, can you please tell us more about you have touched it a little bit in your first part, the strategic partnership with UNDP to support the rollout and adoption of SDG Impact Practice Standards. What will be the next steps?
They're going to be very exciting. I think that's how I would start. I think the best way I think about the SDGs, the global goals, was a gentleman who attended our conference last year who referred to them as a global moonshot. And that really resonated, this idea of bringing together over 140 countries to say, as Cliff has rightly said, impact is our future. There's no two ways about this. These are what we need to achieve. But nevertheless, there has been a missing piece of the puzzle, I think, to help those organizations fulfill their good intentions, to really genuinely apply their practice to the SDGs in a way that respects, and acknowledges the positive as well as negative contributions. So the practice standards, as Fabian has expertly said, fill that gap. They are about decision-making. It's a framework for decision-making. And SVI is proud to be part of a partnership that will support the rollout of accredited trainers. So one of the activities that SVI has a long-standing history in is assurance, as I've discussed, but also accreditation of individuals. So we accredit practitioners in impact measurement and management, and we also accredit trainers, those people who meet the requirements, that we can provide quality assurance that those people who go out and deliver are doing so in a way that is consistent, that helps organizations they are working with meet their ambitions, show that they're on the right path, and doing so at an appropriate level of acceleration. So the partnership will support experienced people, so experienced practitioners in impact management, sustainable development, and SDGs, as well as those people who are also experienced trainers. So we will co-deliver world-class training to those people to become accredited trainers. They can then support organizations in Turkey and around the world, supporting both decision makers and the implementers, who can then change the way that organizations really do no longer just measure impacts, no longer just do impact management, but truly embed the ideas of managing for impacts, so that these ideas can become the very core of decision making, not a bolt-on, not an add-on, but something that is very central to how decisions are taken. So Social Value International will work with our Social Value Network and trusted partners, and of course UNDP country officers, to roll out the training offer to those people who can then support the market and support the organizations to do this, to really implement the SDG standards. As part of the support that is provided, there's a license fee that comes with this for the individuals, but as part of that, they receive ongoing support and continued professional development from both SDG Impact and ourselves at Social Value International. So we're really excited by this. I've used that term game-changing. I really, truly believe this. And we want to create a community, a real global community of accredited trainers who can share their experiences. We have people who are doing this at the moment, who worked with the Jordanian Stock Exchange to really do this. And they are now working with organizations to implement the SDG standards. So working hand in hand with the principles of social value, we can do the measurement, we can do the management, but supporting people to really do managing for impacts. And again, you know, turning Cliff's rhetoric into reality, those good intentions into practice, and helping the organizations on this call meet the SDGs, because there is no alternative. We all want that sustainable and equitable future. In fact, it's not something that we want, it's something that we fundamentally need. So yeah, I would absolutely encourage you to get in touch with this network in Turkey, Social Value Turkey, and I'm sure we'll be either online or, fingers crossed, in person one day soon, delivering the accredited training. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Adam. When we talk about impact investing, of course, having these standards, having the right standards, the methodologies is crucial, as these are the backbone of impact investing itself, impact investments itself. So thank you. And now we are coming to our last panelists, to Cüneyt Bey again. Cüneyt Bey, which sectors in particular stand out as a potential to align with impact investing in Turkey? And do you expect to attract foreign direct investment in this area? And can impact investment be an instrument to unlock green finance given the national climate agenda?
In the SDG map of Turkey we mentioned earlier, 37 investment opportunity areas identified across 9 priority sectors and 16 subsectors. Those priority sectors are technology and communications, transportation, renewables and alternative energy, education, healthcare, food and beverage, consumer goods, infrastructure, and financials. Those sectors are already among the sectors where Turkey is relatively strong, which is good. As the investment office, by the way, we have recently revised Turkey's FDI strategy and made SDGs one of the main pillars of our investment promotion and attraction policies. We support investments in line with the United Nations Sustainable Goals, which include responsible production, sustainable development, green energy, and green economy goals. We are, by the way, conducting studies which will boost the compliance of the business climate and the regulatory framework with SDGs and the European Green Deal. We can say that almost every investor we interviewed has a great sustainability concerns, and there's a strong desire about access to clean energy, innovation, and use of digital technologies. But as a matter of fact, I hope you will agree, almost every investment, whether it be done by a strategic investor or a financial investor, is already a kind of impact investment, Turkey, by nature. When you employ people, when you employ women, put, I don't know, solar panels on top of your factory, treat your wastewater better, find innovative ways to consume less energy, they are all good for our planet, and eventually you contribute to the SDGs. But we need to document it. We need to make the planning at the beginning. We need to measure at the end, and we need to supervise it during the whole process. To be able to do that, we need to establish a better regulatory framework to incentivize, maybe first of all, impact investments. We need to create awareness in the community, in the business community, also in the social area. And also we need to establish all other stakeholders in the ecosystem. And I believe Turkish government is very well aware of this situation, and Turkey wants to be one of the strongest players in the global race to net zero emissions. As the investment promotion agency of Turkey, as I mentioned, we have been trying to do our best on our part. Actually, in less than 3 years, we have done considerable amount of achievements. Once we establish this ecosystem, on one hand, we will be able to catch our SDG targets, which is good for our planet, which is good for our country and people. And on the second hand, on the other hand, we will receive more funds from impact investment funds, which is good for our economy. So we are going to win on two sides. And this will, as a short answer to your question, and this will eventually unlock the green finance, since if there will be green investments, there will be green finance as well.
Thank you, Cüneyt Bey. I think we did very well time-wise in terms of time management, and we have a couple of minutes maybe to take one last thought from every panelist in a sentence. So I will start with Fabienne.
I forgot about this. I'm trying to think what my insight is at 1:30 in the morning. I think it's, I think that Turkey is fantastic. The amount of energy around this topic in Turkey is amazing. For us at UNDP, it has a very important role too through our collaboration with the Istanbul Centre. Increasingly, the Istanbul Centre is integrated into our global plans in terms of rolling out our efforts to raise awareness and adoption of the standards, but also in terms of actually helping us complete the investor maps. So my lasting reflection is there's a lot of there's an enormous amount of positive energy and great people coming around the impact investing space in Turkey, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes. And good luck with becoming the next NAB of the GSG.
Thank you, Fabienne. Cliff, what would you say?
I think I would just observe that the future of the most investable opportunities in the world in the next decade or so are impact opportunities. Whether that's in healthcare, clean energy, education, so many areas. So that gives me a lot of confidence that this will happen. I mean, this is a journey. This journey of impact is still very young. I mean, it's a teenager. Let's face it. So lots of surprises, lots of struggles, but really taking forward now. And it's fantastic to hear from your colleagues in Turkey just how much impact already means to them and is operating on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Cliff. And Adam, what's your take?
It's very similar. It's that of utmost positivity. We've all been involved in this journey for a while now, and it's a journey that is moving at a real pace. I think I used the phrase earlier, a movement whose time has come. It has. I think we all recognize the need. I think we can all recognize that we have the tools, we have the management decision-making framework, we have the principles that support an ability to respond to optimize well-being for people and the planet. And I think, perhaps to leave with a phrase that just says, if not now, when? We have the ability, we have the commitment, and I think now is absolutely the time to make that commitment a reality. So thank you very much indeed, everybody.
Thank you. Cüneyt Bey?
Thank you, Şafak Hanım. Although we have done a lot in the last 3 years, there are other things to do, of course. In this process, Investment Office is ready to assist, help all the relevant stakeholders, as we mentioned. We believe in the near future, Turkey will be one of the good examples in the world for impact investing, because our team, NAB, is very strong and our members are very ambitious. We know what we are doing. Sorry. And we are doing it in the right way. So I'm very hopeful for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I would say the future is impact, and it is called the impact revolution, as Sir Ronald Cohen puts it. I think this can be the last sentence for today, as we are just at the right time to finish. And I would like to thank you all to make yourselves available and to make this panel happen. Thank you.